Los Angeles, California, March 15, 2001, the Marriott Hotel downtown. 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. The lobby is eerily quiet, except for the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional click of high heels on marble floors. Most guests are asleep. The night shift staff moves like ghosts through empty corridors. But in Conference Room B, something extraordinary is about to happen. Something that will break the internet before anyone even knows what breaking the internet means. Christopher Walken sits alone at a folding table, reading a script. But this isn't just any script. This is a music video treatment that will either destroy his carefully crafted image as Hollywood's most menacing character actor, or transform him into something the world has never seen before. At 58 years old, Walken has spent 3 decades terrifying audiences. The psychotic soldier in The Deer Hunter, the sadistic villain in Batman Returns, the unpredictable crime boss in King of New York. His pale, piercing eyes and that distinctive voice have made him the go-to actor for roles that require a certain darkness. But tonight, alone in this hotel conference room, Christopher Walken is about to do something that will shock his agent, confuse his publicist, and absolutely blow the minds of millions of people who think they know who he is. He's about to dance. Not just any dance. A dance that will become one of the most iconic moments in music video history. A dance that will earn him a Grammy nomination. A dance that will prove there's so much more to Christopher Walken than anyone ever imagined. The story starts 3 weeks earlier in a recording studio in Brighton, England. Norman Cook, better known as Fatboy Slim, is putting the finishing touches on a track called Weapon of Choice. It's infectious. It's hypnotic. It has a beat that makes you want to move, whether you know how to dance or not. But Norman has a problem. He wants to make a music video, but every idea feels predictable. Another club scene. Another group of dancers. Another celebrity cameo that feels forced. That's when filmmaker Spike Jonze walks into the studio. Spike is the kind of director who sees possibilities where others see problems. He's the guy who put Bjork in a giant fur coat and made it beautiful. He's the artist who turned a mundane office space into a surreal wonderland. When he hears Weapon of Choice, his mind starts racing. I want to put someone unexpected in an empty hotel, Spike tells Norman. Someone who can move, but who you'd never expect to see dancing. Someone whose presence alone will make people do a double take. They run through lists of actors, musicians, athletes, but nothing feels right. Too obvious. Too safe. Too expected. Then Spike remembers something. A conversation he had months ago with Christopher Walken on the set of another project. Walken had mentioned, almost in passing, that he missed dancing. That he'd trained as a dancer before becoming an actor. That sometimes, late at night in his apartment, he'd put on music and move the way he used to when he was young. What about Christopher Walken? Spike says suddenly. Norman laughs. The guy from Pulp Fiction? The scary dude? You want him to dance? That's exactly why it will work. But here's what nobody knows yet. Here's the secret that makes this whole story even more incredible. Christopher Walken doesn't just miss dancing. Dancing isn't something he used to do. Dancing is who he is. At his core, beneath all the menacing characters and disturbing roles, Christopher Walken is a dancer who happened to become one of the greatest character actors of all time. He started taking lessons at age 3. Not because his parents pushed him, because he couldn't stop moving. In working-class Queens in the 1940s, sending your kid to dance school wasn't unusual. It was practical. It kept them busy. It taught them discipline. But for young Ronnie Walken, it was everything. By age 10, he was performing in local theater productions. By 15, he was touring with professional companies. He danced alongside Liza Minnelli at her 16th birthday party. He spent his teenage years in a world of sequins and spotlights, learning tap, ballet, jazz, and modern dance. When other kids were playing baseball, Ronnie was perfecting his pirouettes. But Hollywood in the 1970s didn't have much use for male dancers who weren't Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire. So Christopher Walken, as he now called himself, pivoted to acting. He took the rhythm and precision he'd learned in dance studios and applied it to character work. Watch any Walken performance carefully, and you'll see it. The way he moves through space, the timing of his gestures, the musicality of his speech patterns. Everything is choreographed, even when he's playing a psychopath. For 30 years, Walken has been hiding in plain sight. Everyone sees the actor. Nobody notices the dancer. Until Spike Jonze makes that phone call. "Christopher, I have a proposition for you," Spike begins. "There's this song, Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim, and I want to make a video where you dance through an empty hotel. Just you, the music, and movement. No dialogue. No characters. Just Christopher Walken dancing." There's silence on the other end of the line. Spike worries he's offended him. Maybe this is too weird, even for Christopher Walken, but Walken isn't offended. He's emotional. At 58 years old, he's being asked to do the thing he loved most before Hollywood convinced him to be scary instead of beautiful. "Can I think about it?" Walken asks, "Of course." "But Christopher, I think people need to see this side of you. I think the world needs to remember that tough guys can be graceful too." That night, Walken goes home to his Connecticut farmhouse. He lives there alone most of the time, while his wife Georgianne maintains their New York apartment. The isolation suits him. The peace and quiet help him think. But tonight, thinking isn't enough. Tonight, Christopher Walken puts on music and dances in his living room like he's 17 years old again. His body remembers everything. The muscle memory is still there, buried under decades of playing villains and misfits. His arms find the right positions. His feet remember the rhythms. For the first time in years, Christopher Walken feels like himself. The next morning, he calls Spike back. "Let's do it." But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Walken doesn't just agree to dance. He agrees to choreograph it himself. Spike had planned to hire a choreographer, someone to create moves that would look good on camera. But Walken has a different vision. "I know this hotel," he tells Spike. "I know how to use the space. Let me show you what I can do." 2 weeks later, they're in the Marriott Hotel at midnight, scouting locations. The hotel management has agreed to let them film after hours, but they're nervous. This is Christopher Walken we're talking about, the guy who played the terrifying Max Schreck in Batman Returns. What if he wants to do something weird? What if this becomes a publicity nightmare? But when Walken walks through the lobby for the first time, something magical happens. He doesn't see a corporate hotel space. He sees a dance floor. He sees opportunities for movement that nobody else would notice. The escalators become partners. The marble columns become props. The long, empty hallways become runways for sequences that will take your breath away. "Here," Walken says, pointing to the center of the lobby. "I'll start here. Something simple, something that draws people in slowly." He demonstrates a few moves. Nothing fancy. Just basic steps, perfectly executed. But there's something hypnotic about watching Christopher Walken dance. It's not just the technical skill, though that's obviously there. It's the complete transformation. The menacing actor disappears. In his place is someone graceful, joyful, almost playful. Spike is mesmerized. "Can you do that thing where you—" He gestures vaguely, not sure how to describe what he's seeing. "Where I what?" Walken asks with a smile. "Where you become someone completely different." That's exactly what happens during filming. Over 3 nights in March 2001, Christopher Walken transforms the Marriott Hotel into his personal dance studio. The crew, expecting to work with the intimidating character actor from dozens of thrillers, instead find themselves collaborating with a consummate professional who happens to be one of the most gifted dancers they've ever seen. But the real magic happens when Walken is alone with the camera. Spike has set up the shots, but he gives Walken complete freedom to improvise. What emerges is something unprecedented in music video history. This isn't a celebrity making an awkward cameo. This isn't a tough guy reluctantly moving to music. This is a masterclass in movement, rhythm, and pure joy. Watch the video closely, and you'll notice something extraordinary. Every gesture is deliberate. Every step is perfectly timed. When Walken slides across the floor, he's not just sliding. He's demonstrating a technique he learned 50 years ago in a Queen's dance studio. When he spins, it's not for show. It's because the music demands it. And Christopher Walken always serves the music. But here's the detail that makes this story even more incredible. During one take, Walken does something that's physically impossible for most people his age. He launches himself into the air, seemingly defying gravity, and appears to fly across the frame. The crew gasps. Spike stops filming. How did you do that? Someone asks. Walken just smiles. Trade secret. Later, the visual effects team will add wires and digital enhancements to make Walken's flying sequences even more dramatic. But the core of what you see in the video is 100% real. Christopher Walken, at age 58, performing moves that dancers half his age would find challenging. The video shoots wrap at 6 a.m. on the third day. Walken has been dancing for almost 6 hours straight. He's exhausted but exhilarated. For the first time in decades, he's been allowed to be completely himself on camera. "Thank you," he tells Spike as they pack up equipment. "I needed this more than you know." But nobody involved in the production is prepared for what happens next. When Weapon of Choice is released 6 months later, it doesn't just become a hit. It becomes a cultural phenomenon. The video racks up millions of views. Entertainment shows can't stop talking about it. Suddenly, everyone wants to know, who knew Christopher Walken could dance like that? The answer, of course, is that Christopher Walken always could dance like that. Hollywood just never asked him to. The video wins 6 MTV Video Music Awards, including the award for Best Direction. But more importantly, it changes how people see Christopher Walken. Suddenly, he's not just the scary guy from thrillers. He's a complete performer, someone capable of beauty as well as menace. At the MTV Awards ceremony, Walken takes the stage to present an award. The audience expects the usual Walken weirdness, the deadpan delivery, and subtle menace. Instead, he does a little dance move. Nothing elaborate, just a quick two-step. The crowd goes wild. Backstage afterward, a reporter asks him how it feels to surprise people with his dancing ability. Surprise? Walken says, with that slight smile, "I'm not the one who's surprised. I've been dancing longer than I've been acting. You just never asked." But the real impact of the Weapon of Choice video goes beyond entertainment. It becomes a reminder that everyone has depths we don't see, that the scary guy might also be graceful, that the intimidating actor might have spent his childhood in ballet studios, that assumptions about people are often just that, assumptions. Over the next few years, Walken starts incorporating more dancing into his acting roles. A little two-step in Hairspray. Some subtle movement in Catch Me If You Can. Directors begin writing dance sequences specifically for him, knowing that Christopher Walken brings something unique to any moment that involves rhythm and movement. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this story happens years later, when Walken is in his 70s. He's still acting, still taking on challenging roles. But now, whenever he's asked about his career, he talks about dancing as much as acting. He talks about the joy of movement, the discipline of rhythm, The way music makes everything better. People always ask me about my scariest roles, he says in one interview. But dancing in that hotel lobby? That was the bravest thing I ever did on camera. Not because it was dangerous, because it was me. In 2021, 20 years after Weapon of Choice, a restored version of the video is released in 4K. New viewers discover it for the first time. Old fans watch it again with fresh eyes. And Christopher Walken, now in his late 70s, receives a new wave of appreciation for reminding the world that tough guys can be beautiful, that actors can surprise us, and that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply be yourself. The lesson of Christopher Walken's Midnight Dance is simple but powerful. Everyone has hidden depths. Everyone has talents that don't fit their public image. Everyone has moments when they're brave enough to show the world who they really are, underneath all the roles they're expected to play. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, someone films it at 2 a.m. in an empty hotel lobby, and it becomes art that lasts forever. That's the night Christopher Walken shocked Hollywood. Not by being scary, by being beautiful.